Hello everyone, my name is For Extraordinaire, and we are going to start off today with a brand new dev diary by the Humankind team over at Amplitude, and this dev diary kind of focuses on embassies and to a larger extent leveraged usage. So let's get into it. I want to talk about embassies, their uses, and how they really change the game for diplomacy, for your culture, and for your empire in Humankind. Here is our first official quote-unquote screenshot for the new embassy district, and I will say that while the promotional video did talk briefly about this, it kind of glossed over a few of the new functions and forms that it introduces, namely a new embassy tab that kind of helps with diplomacy and managing the different cooperations and agreements between your different nations as you play through and progress your culture. I also want to take the time to point out that this is not a very visually concise design because the colors here are not at all complementary. You have green, purple, and red. Not sure if this is because of the colors that the player chose for their culture, but it is definitely all over the place. While it does stand out, I don't think it stands out in a very positive way. I will say that it is kind of striking in order to avoid being too hard on the devs. We can also see the new Imperial Palace Wonder, or the Forbidden Palace, that is introduced with the new Han Chinese culture. This is the new agreements tab I talked about earlier, and it introduces 5 new agreements between nations: scientific correspondence, arms deal, monumental contractors, diplomatic cooperation, and refugee agreement. Each of these unique agreements focuses on their own aspect of gameplay and respective cultural affinity. Arms deal focuses on militarists, diplomatic cooperation focuses on diplomatic cultures, and scientific correspondence focuses on scientific cultures, each with their own caveats, as you have to weigh how much you want to support your own competing nation and how much you want them to support you. At the end of the day, though, you have to consider that while these contracts will help boost you and your empire to the world stage, it also helps your allies when they are struggling with things like research. So do consider how much you want to lend a helping hand and how much you want to be helped, and whether that transaction is going to be worth it in the end. For example, it might be worthwhile to pursue a contract like scientific correspondence if you are behind on technologies and focusing all of your pops into builder jobs to put out wonders or new districts. However, if you are playing a scientific culture and are researching technologies from the next era which other cultures cannot unlock as of yet with the current era, then it would probably be a very bad decision to go ahead and keep your scientific correspondence agreement contract up with your fellow AI. Additionally, you can use resources like leverage to influence your actions on the world stage. You can take actions like placate, expel military forces, diplomatic ultimatum, expose undercover assets, and apply economic sanctions. For players like myself that love to focus on city development and perhaps don't focus as much on military development, this is fantastic because they provide many options for last-minute decisions where you don't have a nearby ally to support you in a surprise war and you desperately require some sort of aid that doesn't require or put a big strain on your current resources at the moment. And in this case, leverage is a great go-to, but you will definitely want to kind of be hoarding that as you go on because some of these resources seem to be fairly costly. We don't exactly know the full extent of the leverage resource at the moment as mechanics are still being revealed in the Together We Rule dev diaries, but I will say that leverage seems to be a bit costly when it comes to things like expose undercover assets. Later on in the game, I think this will have some great scaling usage because when you use expose undercover assets, all of the enemy troops in those territories that you may own but do not have coverage on are going to be exposed, and therefore you can go ahead and do things like missile strikes or use flying units to go ahead and bomb them, which is fantastic for some of the more mountainous terrain that conceals tiles. I think my favorite, though, is expel military forces because I can't tell you how many times I've had aggressive empires constantly coming into my territories and just sitting around or attacking my units. So great to see that it has been included, but man, I did not want to have to wait a year to be able to kick the AI out, even if they haven't declared an active war. It is just so annoying to see them scouting my territory and putting their troops in there when they shouldn't be. Apply economic sanctions is going to be particularly crippling when you consider the fact that many of the heavy militarist civs or even other players that are going to be pursuing a militarist run and going with strong culture picks like the Mongols, they require a lot in terms of production for industry and money and even research. So being able to sanction them is going to be very effective on stopping their economy and making them focus on other things in order to get those troops out like food and research. Lastly, something free that is going to be coming with the Metanique update following the Together We Rule expansion release is the option for third-party reinforcements. In this case, you can now render control of your units over to the ally as they kind of go at it with their enemy in the battlefield. Otherwise, I imagine that if there were multiple players, you would have a clusterfuck of confusion as different turns went about and you didn't know who was who, with tons of different colors moving around and 80 plus troops fighting. That concludes this fairly short dev diary, but if you liked everything in this video, please let me know in the comments down below. Alternatively, if you have some criticisms of this dev diary or this video in particular, please let me know. I have just got a new mic, so I am still adjusting the quality, and I would love to hear tips and feedbacks from you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope to see you guys later. Love you guys. Peace.